Welcome to episode 697 of the Entertainment 2.0 podcast, brought to you by thedigitalmediazone.com. I'm Josh Pollard.
And I'm Richard Gunther, and this is the show that puts you in control of your favorite movies, music, shows, and games. And I have forgotten how to read our lead-in. But Josh, 697. Wow.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. All right.
It's so many.
It's so many. All right. Well, but let's not get hung up on that because we have stuff to discuss tonight and we have feedback that people sent to us.
Correct. They actually used the contact form over at the website for this, www.thedigitalmediazone.com. But if you just want to open your email client, the email address is entertainment20@thedigitalmediazone.com.
All right. So this comes from Tony, and Tony says that most of my listening has been passive, meaning I listen and then act. But this time around, in a recent show, you were talking about Plex. Got me thinking about backups of the Plex files I have, about 8 terabytes worth on a Synology NAS. 8 terabytes. That's nothing.
We're not here to make fun of the listeners, Richard. That's more than I have in my Plex.
No. Sorry. I'm not making fun. I'm just joking. Okay. So we had a big earthquake here in 2011 there in Christchurch. And so, by the way, he's calling from New Zealand, in case you're wondering where that is. And he said recently there have been a few fires nearby. And he lives in a hill area surrounded by a lot of farmland and a lot of grass, and lost a bit in the earthquake in recent years. And he's gotten cautious about things that mean a lot to him, like his media collection. So he goes on, he says, I keep meaning to back up the Plex collection using hard drives, but I'm a bit of a procrastinator and very busy. So I'm looking for easier, more passive ways to back up. I'm open to your suggestions, but I'm leaning towards using an online backup service. Hopefully I'll never need to access once the data is uploaded, but never say never. I'm a Home Assistant user. And in a recent podcast, Frank Niehoff?
Sure.
I think that's how you might pronounce that. Said that he uses Backblaze. I had a look and it was expensive to back up from a NAS. So now for the question. Do you have any suggestions on what service or method to use that is cost effective? Okay, Josh, before you go there, because I think you have an immediate reaction that you want to share. but I want to say I understand this completely because I'm in the same situation. I don't have my stuff backed up, not everything out there. And I have a lot of stuff. And guess what? I'm also a procrastinator. So what advice do you have for us, for Tony and me?
For all of you? My answer, so like when I think of people who come to me and say, I have this massive like multi-terabyte, maybe dozens of terabytes Plex library, what that means to me is you have a ton of movies backed up. And I'm going to assume that you did this all legally, you've got them all on disk somewhere. And to me, if I've already got all of this stuff on an NAS, I see no reason to do any more backing up of that, especially to an expensive online cloud provider. Because if that drive dies, I've still got the disk. I could rewrite
source media.
Right. I've got the source. Right. Now, that isn't necessarily the greatest answer for every situation, right? Because like if his house burns down and takes the hard drives out, it's probably taking out the Blu-rays too.
Good point.
Right? So,
and that's kind of the purpose of a backup, or so we might use as a justification.
100%. And I think because of that, especially if he's concerned about wildfires and stuff like that, then I think he's doing the right thing by looking for an online backup because, yes, you could absolutely get like a couple of extra hard drives and make duplicate copies in your house. And I guess you could do that and like just throw those hard drives in a fireproof safe. But That's definitely not going to be passive. Like anytime you rip a new movie or whatever, you're going to have to pull those out of the fire safe and copy them into that. One thing I do want to be super clear about when I say to people, like, just don't back up your Plex library. I really just mean the things like movies. And this is the advice I've been giving for, what episode number is this? 697 episodes. Like, they're huge, and it costs a lot of money to to store these things in the cloud. You absolutely should be backing up in, ideally 3 places. Anything that is super important, like photos and documents and things like that. Absolutely back those up. Those tend to be a whole lot smaller and a lot easier. There's a million services out there for doing that. You could use OneDrive, you could use Google Photos. There's lots of good options for that. But when you're talking about 10 terabytes worth of files, that does get trickier, and it definitely gets more expensive. So I don't have a ton of, I have no real world experience on which to give a recommendation here, because I've never done it, because I don't want to. If I lose my Plex library, I'm not going to lose any sleep over that. And I actually do have all of it stored on 2 different hard drives already. Actually, maybe 3, because I think I've got it on 2 external hard drives and my NAS, which is already way overboard for what I actually need, right? So Backblaze, I've definitely heard of. I've also heard of a lot of people using Carbonite. I've heard of people using CrashPlan. I think where some of this does get a little bit trickier is he's trying to do this straight from the NAS. And I think that, if you're trying to do it from a NAS, they oftentimes do make those like a different tier of service and stuff. If you can do some finagling, like if you've got a regular computer that is running and stuff, you could potentially map a network drive. Like, I don't know if this is against terms of service. So, go read the terms of service. I don't want to tell you to do something that you
terms of service of what?
Of like one of these cloud providers.
Yeah.
Because you could have your Windows PC with maybe a mapped network drive or something like that to your NAS and say, this is part of my machine that I'm back. Like, those are potential options, I suppose. I did not dig that deep into all of these providers. I was just curious, how much is this going to cost? And some of these guys, like Carbonite, it was like unlimited storage for like $80 a year. And that actually sounds pretty friggin' reasonable. Like, to get a terabyte of storage from Google Drive for photos is $100 a year.
Yep.
So, what are you thinking, Richard?
So I'm in his boat. I want to do this. I'm not doing this. In the day when I could store something at my parents' place outside of the area where I lived, I did that. I would periodically take a backup of my files, not my Plex, but my files, my personal movies, my photos. I would take my music, because even though I ripped it takes up far less space.
Right.
And then a copy of whatever my current documents folder was from my local machine. And I would put that on a hard drive that I would swap with them every year when I was up there at Christmas or whatever. And, since I no longer have that ability to do that, I've talked about maybe doing it with a friend that lives out of the area. And I just have never really gotten around it. We tried to do like drives that synchronized with each other remotely, that we hosted ourselves with 3 friends, and we never got that working. So the best that I'm doing right now is that I run a nightly backup of my photos and key documents that I want to have. And that runs every night, and it's on a connected USB drive that I'm never smart enough to remove and just put somewhere else every once in a while and swap it with a different drive. And that's really all it takes, though. It really only takes maybe once every 6 months, or whatever your tolerance for that period is, just periodically getting something off site. because that's the whole purpose for remote backup is
Right.
to get something off site. I live in Washington, D.C., and after 9/11, we had like larger sites that, okay, well, maybe I should get it out of the area, right? Maybe we shouldn't have all of our critical documents and digital information in the same physical town or location.
Right. You're like, I've got them on my local machine and in AWS US East 1.
right. Well, but I never really did the cloud thing. So I have a Carbonite subscription and I still pay for it, but I never bothered to set it up. I mean, that's what's so pathetic, right? These things, and so I get it. I totally get the struggle that you're in. You know, you need to do this, you want to do this, but just getting around to it and getting it done is hard. And the thing that was easiest for me was just periodically taking that USB backup that was connected to the NAS and swapping it with the one that I stowed at my parents' house last time.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice. Physical offsite storage. It's going to be cheaper, and yes, it requires some action on your part. But if there's somewhere that you go annually or periodically, or if you could just set a reminder on your calendar to do this every 6 months or something, that would solve your problem.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Okay. Good suggestions and really, really fantastic questions. So thank you, Tony, for the message. And if you'd like to send us some listener feedback for a future episode, all of our contact info will be at the end of the show or over in our show notes at thedigitalmediazone.com. So let's jump into the news. And Richard, I'm going to let people peek behind the curtains. Richard DM'd me today and he's like, is there anything to talk about other than this Netflix thing? And there is, but that's definitely the biggest story of the week. So
Yeah.
Richard, why don't you explain to us what the heck is going on with this bizarre set of circumstances between Netflix and Warner Brothers and Paramount? And
I just love that you called this the Netflix thing, because I still to this day remember how Warner Brothers for years struggled because they really wanted something out in the public zeitgeist that they could brand as Warner Brothers. They wanted a Warner Brothers app or a Warner Brothers streaming service. And they always got talked out of it. But man, those executives were convinced that Warner Brothers name was what needed to be out. That needed to be the brand that people went to. And it's not how people think of stuff. It's just not. People think of the sub-brands. People think of the brands that company owns. And Warner Brothers doesn't mean what it used to mean to our parents and grandparents. But I guess, man, it seems like a month ago, but a week ago, roughly, we had this offer from Netflix to purchase Warner Brothers Discovery. We knew that Warner Brothers Discovery was shopping themselves out, and a bid came in from Netflix, and it's many billions of dollars. It's north of $80 billion, and that deals in, I believe, in a combination of cash and stock, and it's very typical for an acquisition. And everyone's like, whoa, new media is buying old media. New media that, by the way, said they wanted nothing to do with old media is buying old media. That's kind of interesting. So we have that offer on the table, and then everybody's like, well, I thought there was some rumors that Skydance Paramount was maybe going to... Remember, Paramount got bought out by Skydance. Skydance, the Ellisons. Yes, that Ellison and family. And so everyone was thinking, well, I thought they were interested in this too, but they didn't put an offer in. Well, apparently they are interested too. Now, there is now an attempted hostile bid of, more billions. So almost $110 billion, which is also many billions. And it's in cash because, the Ellisons are flush. So,
Well, sort of. There's a whole lot of financing going on here.
oh yeah, 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 yeah,
But,
yeah.
yeah.
But this is it's a this is your classic hostile offer, right? Because this is an offer that the board is going to look at and they're going to be like, well, do we take the more cash, or do we take the cash and the risk of stock and the value of that changes and everything? Now, like most uh, bidding wars, if you will, or mergers, there's kind of, I call it a poison pill. I don't think that's an exact way of putting it, but if Netflix were to not purchase Warner Brothers because Warner Brothers decides, yeah, no, we're going to go with someone else, then Warner Brothers, Warner Brothers Discovery is a lot of words, but whatever. Warner Brothers Discovery owes them $2.8 billion. Okay, fine. So if it doesn't go through because of regulation reasons or whatever, then Netflix owes Warner Brothers Discovery money. That's more money. It's more than twice as much. So if you're a Warner Brothers Discovery stockholder or like major shareholder or owner in this company, you're thinking, well, I mean, there's trade-offs here, right? Like we have cash offer, but there's penalties to it. We don't necessarily know what this is going to take. The offers are a little bit different too, right? So the offer from Netflix was expected to include HBO and HBO Max and the streaming stuff and things like that, but probably not the traditional media pieces, probably not the cable channels. It would include the movie studio, though, which was interesting, right? It would, because Netflix thinks of themselves now as a studio. They are a producer of content. So that's interesting. As far as I understand, the bid from Paramount would include the cable channel.
Yeah, I think it's everything.
Right. Which is an interesting situation, and I'm going to try and explain why without expressing bias. But there's a political slant to that. So there's been speculation that one of the reasons that Skydance wants this acquisition is because they're in well with the administration. And in theory, if they wanted to, they could potentially squelch the voice of one of the most liberal, popular news channels on traditional media, CNN. And that could be concerning. Regulatory things would typically prevent that from happening, but do we know if that would necessarily be an issue in this administration? We don't know. We don't know. In fact, there's been discussion that it would probably be easier to get this deal through if it were Paramount than if it were Netflix, because there's already pushback on the Netflix deal, but doesn't seem to be that sort of discussion about the Skydance deal. So this is a lot. This is a whole lot. I don't think that we're going to hear a quick resolution to this. I don't know what the deadline on this offer is, but it seems to me that there's a lot for the board to consider here. As far as we're concerned, what's this mean for consumers? Well, assuming that it doesn't mean a change in the programming that CNN offers, if it were acquired by Skydance, then all this really means is fewer apps you have to go into. Right?
Well, but I think there's more to it than that, because Hollywood is also really upset about the idea of Netflix buying them. Well,
that's a good point.
Because they're afraid the Netflix is going to say, we hate movie theaters. We don't want anything new to have to come out to movie theaters. We want all of this stuff to just go to the streaming services that we own.
Sure, but one of their CEOs, because remember they have two for some reason, one of their CEOs has already come out and said very clearly, no, we do not hate movie theaters. We want movies to still go into movie theaters. What we have an issue with is the strict windowing that happens in movie theaters. And Netflix typically ignores that. Netflix will put something into a theater for a week or two.
Right.
And then put it online. But I think they'll recognize that if if a studio they own is making a blockbuster movie that's going to draw like $500 million in movie theaters in 2 months, then they'll keep it in theaters for 2 months. And then, they have to measure where they're going to get their most money, because that's what they care about, is how they're going to get the most money.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So the Paramount offer does have a timeline. This offer is through January 8th. So the shareholders don't really have that much time to figure out what they're doing here.
That seems like forever, frankly. A month from now. That seems like forever.
Well, it's nothing compared to how long this thing will actually take if Netflix option goes through, because
I know it's going to get dragged.
It first depends on Warner Brothers splitting the company next year, so that Netflix is only buying the part of it that they want. And so Netflix is saying, we need 18 months before this thing really gets finalized. Which makes sense. Like, for people who have been listening to this show for a long time, you remember us regularly talking about Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard King. That took well over a year also for an almost $70 billion media acquisition. So we've barely talked about the potential antitrust and regulators and all of that stuff. And I think that that's probably appropriate, because I think that they're the last people to do anything to stop any of this. And like, again, this is no judgment. This is just what I've observed. The people leading these regulatory officials under this administration are taking a very different approach to regulating, especially antitrust sorts of things, compared to the previous administration. I don't think that they're going to get in the way from an antitrust perspective. And there's plenty of arguments to say that they shouldn't. Like, it's not like Netflix is some major player. They're not even close to being the biggest player in the media space.
Well, they're the biggest player in the streaming space.
Yeah, sort of. Because they could also say, nuh-uh, look at YouTube.
Sure. Okay. Yeah,
there are certainly a lot of ways to slice this.
Yeah.
And for regulatory agencies that don't actually seem all that interested in regulating very many things. So I don't see the government stopping this. I think it's up to the Warner Brothers Discovery shareholders.
Yeah. I mean, in all honesty, I feel like for the last 20 years, our whole antitrust system has been broken, if not more than that. But I see too much stuff going through that shouldn't be going through, in my opinion.
Right. And the previous administration certainly tried to stop a lot of that.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't super effective. Obviously they tried really hard to prevent the Activision acquisition by Microsoft. Didn't happen. And they made a lot of noise about going after some of the other big tech companies, but nothing ever really happened there either. So, and now we've got an administration that just wants to do things differently. So I just don't see it happening.
Yep.
But
yeah, I agree.
Like Activision, I think unless Paramount wins this hostile bid takeover in the next few weeks, I think Netflix is going to get this, and we're just going to be waiting for a year and a half for everything to get finalized.
Well, and my concern, and again, this will sound like a political slant, but my concern is that the board could conclude that they need to go with the Skydance offer because the Skydance offer is more likely to get through the regulatory hurdles because it's more likely what the administration would want. And that could happen, right? We could potentially see pushback. Now, we've already heard pushback by people in Congress, but for the most part, that's all just noise, right?
Yeah.
You have people in Congress that are just grandstanding saying, oh, we need to keep these big mergers from happening, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But they have no power in actually preventing it from happening.
And the power they do have, they don't even use. So I'm really not concerned about Congress doing that.
Fair point.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've probably talked that story to death. So why don't we move on to other things that we don't actually know that much about? So YouTube, I'm really selling this tonight. YouTube TV, kind of an interesting little news blip that they released this week saying that they're going to launch some new plans. Right now, YouTube is basically, here's everything. Give us $83 a month. And we've got some extra add-ons and stuff, but they're just add-ons. Like, you give us $83 a month, and if you want to give us more, you can. Next year, they're going to start offering different plans. And so you don't necessarily have to buy that give me everything for $83 a month plan. The only one that they've actually specified so far is a sports plan, where they've said the sports plan will include all of the major broadcasters, as well as things like Fox Sports 1, NBC Sports, everything on ESPN, including that ESPN Unlimited service. That will be a plan. They are talking about other plans that are focused more on family content or news or a combination of sports and news. All of these ideas always sound great. And they always sound like a thing that could save you some money. So, like,
in theory, cost less, right?
In theory, cost less.
Right.
As long as you're not like a family, right? Because once you get an entire family of people who want to watch things, there's always going to be someone in the house who's like, but what about that channel that I cared about? Well, sorry, son, it's not in the sports and news package.
No, you still have the same plan that we've always had that we're still going to pay the same amount of money for, right?
Oh, totally. It'll absolutely 100% stay the same price that it is right now. These things never get more. Yeah, we're obviously kidding there. It seems extremely likely that when they announce these plans, they're going to say, we are introducing these plans alongside a giant increase on the regular plan.
Yeah.
You can have everything for $110 a month.
Yep.
Or if you only care about sports, well, that's only $99 a month.
Totally.
And so some of these plans may still end up being more expensive than what the whole plan is right now.
Yeah, but hey, they'll probably add a couple channels that we don't care about to that everything plan.
Probably. It sounds a whole lot like cable, doesn't it? Right? Like, go back 20 years and think about the cable packages, and you're like, all right, so the base cable package does include ESPN, but it doesn't include ESPNU. I've got to go up a tier to get ESPNU. And all right, so I went up a tier and I got ESPNU. And that also gave me some of the news channels that I wanted, but not CNBC. And it's like, oh, I got to go up another tier. No, come on. This is the direction we're going with this.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, this is in fact the Sling model, right? This is what Sling does, where they have like 2 base packages you can choose from, and then you add on all your stuff to it. They don't have an everything. They don't even offer an everything.
Well, yeah, they have Sling Orange plus Blue.
But that's not everything. There's still stuff that you can add to that.
Well, yes.
A lot of stuff. That many people, like when I had Sling, Orange plus Blue was not enough for me. There were things that I wouldn't get that I still wanted to have. And I mean, I'm not watching crazy stuff. I'm not saying, I want to get all the foreign language channels or the deep cut sports or whatever you call stuff that most people don't watch. But I was like, I could not believe how expensive it got once you started adding all that stuff on. So I could see them hiking the price pretty significantly here. And you're right. In my opinion, I think this feels a whole lot like what we had in the cable world. It's funny. Every time if anyone follows, we know him, journalist Jared Newman. We've had him on the show before. He follows specifically and reports on the streaming industry and the cable cutting space and how that has come to be. And he continues to assert vehemently that no, it's not back to the way the cable was. And the more time that goes on, the more I start to really think that this is looking more and more like what we had, that the business plan evolved to what it was because that's what the industry kind of forced it to be. That's what the licensing and the business models kind of forced it to be. And when I worked as a contractor at Time Warner Cable, I knew full well there was no way ever that a cable company would or could offer an a la carte package that let you choose individual channels that you wanted to have so you could create your own lineup. It's just never going to happen. They don't have the licensing rights, or it wouldn't be a profitable business opportunity for them to do that.
It's not profitable, and it basically eliminates growth. So the one thing, it's really a couple of things. The things that still make this different than the legacy cable model are, one, you're not forced into long-term contracts, and two, you actually have options. Like, those were the things that we hated in the 90s and the early 2000s. You had one local cable provider, and you had to sign year-long contracts or longer. Same with satellite providers, and those were your only options. And now you can, basically everything is month to month, and you've got tons of options. If you hate YouTube TV this month, switch to Hulu next month. Hate that? Switch to Sling, switch to DirecTV. You've got tons of options now. Are the models all looking like they're starting to go back to the cable model? Yes, but at least some of the things that we really hated, not really an option anymore. So that's a plus in all of this. Okay, let's jump into some audio news. We'll hit this one quick. Spotify, we talked about this a while ago. They had started to launch music videos, really kind of competing with YouTube Music there. In other parts of the world, not here, they have, I was going to say they fixed that. It's not like it was a bug. They just didn't have the licensing probably nailed down. So now, if you're in the US and Canada and you have a Spotify premium subscription, you can start to watch music videos inside of the Spotify app. It's certainly not everything. I was hunting around trying to find videos to test this on tonight. Apparently Taylor Swift is not included. I was like, surely Taylor Swift will have stuff. I couldn't find music videos for Taylor Swift in Spotify. I tried another pop star that my daughter loves. There were music videos there. If there are music videos, it's super obvious that they're there because as you're looking at the songs, it has a little video label next to it. And then when you pick the song and start listening to it in the now playing sort of screen, you get a little button that says switch to video. And if you do that, it automatically switches into the music video. And
well, what's that experience like? Does it restart, or does it go like it goes to the right place in the song?
It goes to the right place in the song.
Wow.
It's really good. It's really well done.
Wow.
Yeah. Like, it's basically seamless switching from video to audio. When I went from audio to video, like, maybe it was off by a second that it needed to go back or something like that. But yeah, you're not starting the song over by switching.
That's brilliant.
It's done really, really well. I'm impressed.
Nice.
Yeah. So again, it does require a premium subscription. You're going to need to pay if you want the music videos. But this is rolling out across the board. It's on iOS, Android, desktop devices, TV devices. I only tried it so far on my Android phone, but in theory, it's everywhere if you're in the US and Canada now. Okay. On to our gaming news. Oh, wait, there isn't any because...
What?
Right. There isn't any.
We have some listeners who will be very happy.
So happy. Frankly, I probably should have said this at the beginning of the show. Would have kept some people on longer. There's no gaming news this week because the Game Awards are tomorrow night as we're recording this, Thursday, December 11th. It's one of the biggest events in the video game industry every year. We can certainly debate whether it should be. It's not exactly a great awards show, but there are a lot of announcements that happen there. So I think any news that was going to happen this week, it's all on hold, and they're just going to announce it at the Game Awards tomorrow night. So we might have news next week to talk about, but not this week. So that gives us a little bit more time to talk about what's going on in our entertainment centers, Richard. So what's going on in yours?
All right. So it's been a couple of weeks as usual. So I have a bunch of stuff to run through. First off, as we know, I have this great TV area down in my rec room now with this large television, and I enjoy watching stuff on that each evening. And I noticed that the Disney Plus app was upgraded. And by upgraded, I think I mean that it's changed now to more discreetly differentiate between Disney Plus, Hulu, and ESPN. Like there's a tab bar at the top. Didn't used to be there. That's just those things. And then if I select Disney Plus, then I'm back to the thing where I have the 5 major areas that we're all used to seeing in the Disney Plus app, which doesn't include Hulu anymore. Now we're back to the major brands that are part of Disney. So, okay, that's interesting. Also, why is it just playing the next episode automatically for me? That didn't used to be the case. Wait a minute. How do I? Oh, I have to check my settings. So I go to the settings. In settings, there's nothing that allows you to like cancel the autoplay next episode or the autoplay video previews or the use sound in autoplay. All of those features not in settings. Do you know where they are, Josh?
If they're not in settings, I wouldn't. Under your profile?
I might think they're under my account profile, right? So I go to the account section. Nope, not there.
Where else is there?
They're in the user profile section. So apparently where you go and select the user, there's the ability to edit the options for each of those users that you have set up. So you're at the screen with the 3 bubbles or however many bubbles you have in your household, and you select the cartoon character that matches you before you start watching something in Disney Plus. There's a manage profiles button underneath that I've never paid any attention to. And if you click that, then you can go in and then edit any one of those individual profiles. And for each of those profiles, that's where you have to tell it to turn off the autoplay next episode, turn off the autoplay preview videos, turn off the sound for any video that's playing when you haven't started playing a video on demand. And they all turned back on when they updated the app because that's what Disney wants.
This does seem like the right place for these settings, though.
But it's so buried. It's like it's just not obvious. I wouldn't think.
Right.
I would think it would be an app setting. It seems to me, and I could be wrong, but it seems to me that everywhere else that I have that option, it's for the app. It's not because sure, maybe my 5-year-old daughter who doesn't exist might actually want those videos to play automatically, but sorry, I'm the dad. I don't know.
Yeah.
So if you're wondering why your Disney app is not behaving the way you wanted it to, that could be why. And that's how you fix it. So just a little PSA there.
Yeah.
Public service announcement for everybody. All right. So what have I been watching? The Amazing Race. The last episode should be out this week. Looking forward to that. I finished watching the morning show. I thought the finale delivered. It was good. The season was good. I didn't even expect that we were going to have a season 4 because season 5 wrapped up in a way, or season 3, sorry, wrapped up in a way that made you think, okay, we're done. But no, apparently there's even going to be a season 5 from what I understand. So that's cool. As long as they keep delivering good stories, I'm in. We've watched a little bit more of The Voice, not a ton. You get a couple phases into it and it starts to get tedious. So we'll catch up on that eventually. We did finish the show Fubar. This is the thing with Arnold Schwarzenegger where he plays a spy and his family doesn't know it. Sound familiar? Of course it does. But they made a series out of it and it was 2 seasons. was only 2 seasons, and we finished the second season. Thoroughly enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun. Continued watching a few more episodes of Mary and George, Keeping Up with Ghosts, Keeping Up with Abbott Elementary. We know that Stranger Things has started, but Edward does not want to start it until all the episodes are available. Because when we get sucked into this, we really get sucked into this.
Right. And you don't have to wait that long.
And we don't want to have to wait, but yes, that's the good news, because the launch dates for these episodes was basically the day before Thanksgiving, Christmas Day, and New Year's Day. So we're already almost at the Christmas Day launch. There are 4 episodes out there now. There will be, I think, another 4, and then the final 2. If I don't know if I have that count right, but so I think we'll be able to start that. But in the meantime, there've been a lot of posts out about how you need to catch up, because it's been a while. And so if you forget what's happened and what the key things were, there are apparently a few key episodes, 4 episodes in particular, that most folks are recommending that you rewatch before starting the new season. So we watched all of those, and one of those is the last episode of the last season, which you may not remember is over 2 hours long.
Wow.
It's a movie.
Yeah.
I mean, the last episode is a movie. So, yeah.
I watched a movie this week that wasn't even that long. An actual movie.
Right? Right. Exactly. So there's a lot in there, but it's so good. I could do a rewatch on this series. I think the series has been so good. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've loved the character development. I like how they're dealing with people growing up by jumping through time or jumping ahead in time is the way I should put that. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to watching the new season. I am almost finished with Luke Cage. I think I have 2 episodes left. I've been getting back to that, and there's 2 seasons of that. I finished episode 11 of season 2, so I'll be finishing that up, and then I'm on to season 2 of Iron Fist. And I know Iron Fist got a lot of crap. Nobody really liked Iron Fist. I liked the character. I thought Danny was interesting. I thought the story behind him and the nemesis was interesting, and it's key to the whole overall story arc. So I will watch it. And they had a tie-in so that you could get ready to watch Iron Fist by getting those 2 characters together before the season ended. So that's been pretty good. I am up to date, up to the minute. I am waiting for every episode of Pluribus on Apple TV. It is so friggin' good and so crazy. Thoroughly enjoying that. And then over the weekend, I watched something that I have never seen before, the movie Crazy Rich Asians. I don't know if you've ever seen this, Josh. Have you?
I have, yeah.
It was just delightful.
It's a lot of fun.
It is so much fun. I didn't really know anything about this movie, and friends of mine were in town and asked me if I'd seen it before. And I haven't yet. It's on my list. I want to see it. In fact, it's one of the things I have downloaded to my iPad on Plex that I've never watched. It's just there so that if I need something to watch on a plane, I could watch it.
Right. It's a great plane movie. Yeah.
I could see that. And I've just never watched it. I'm so glad. Now I want to get Edward to watch because I think he'll really enjoy it. It was so much fun. Thoroughly enjoyed that. Of course, I'm listening to Christmas music now. And I don't know what anyone else's music service is like, but when I tell my assistant to play Christmas music for me, I find that it plays All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey and Last Christmas by George Michael at least once an hour. And that is just intolerable. I don't know what they're thinking. So I had to tell my assistant that I hate these songs so that it will play them less. It's just like, what? This is like top 40 radio when I was in high school, where they played the number 1 song every hour. And in case you didn't know, All I Want for Christmas Is You is once again the number one song on the Billboard chart.
Is it really?
It is.
That's amazing.
It's insane, is what it is.
And if you have a Spotify premium subscription, you can see the music video of it now in Spotify. I just double checked.
Yay!
I'm in a similar boat to you. My kids, they love Christmas music, and so if we're in the car together, a lot of times we like give in and we're like, all right, fine. And so the Spotify playlist for this crap is called Christmas Hits. The very first song, and this has been true for years, is All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey. It looks like they've changed up the order a little bit because, oh, nope. Last Christmas by Wham is number 2 on the list, which I hate that song.
Of course.
My 12-year-old loves that song. Yeah.
I don't dislike it. But I don't want to hear it every hour for the next month. I mean, that's just insane.
No. Yikes.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. Okay. Also listening or reading, however you want to think of it, the DevOps Handbook, about halfway through that now. And I am still a month behind on podcasts, trying to stay within the month boundary. I'm literally up to November 10th right now. It
is okay to skip episodes. Like, I don't even know why I waste my breath. I tell you that all the time, and you're never going to listen. So
I drop shows before I skip episodes.
It's okay. All right. Listen, Josh. Public service announcement to everybody listening to this. Mm-hmm. You are allowed to skip podcast episodes of every podcast out there except for Entertainment 2.0.
Oh, fair. Yeah. Good point.
and Home On.
And the Smart Home Show. If either of those two shows ever come out. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Okay, well, I actually have a fair amount going on in my house right now in my entertainment center. I've got a couple of projects that I've not only started, but mostly finished. One still needs some tweaking. I mentioned last week that I was sick of waiting to see if Lenovo is ever going to give me the Xbox full screen experience on my Legion Go. They still didn't. So over the weekend, I forced it, and I like it. I do really like it. I can understand maybe why they haven't shipped it yet, because the experience does really work a whole lot better if you've got an actual Xbox button on your handheld computer, which the Legion Go doesn't. But it does have mappable buttons on the back. And so I mapped one of them to an Xbox button, and then one of them to the task switcher button. And it works great. I'm really liking it. I'm still podcasting from that Legion Go right now. That is my computer. So it's not hard to get from the Xbox full screen experience into the Windows experience. It's fast. It's easy. The Xbox experience itself works really well. Like on mine, I still need to put in a PIN to log in. You press the A button in the PIN box, and it gives you an on-screen keyboard of numbers that have, direction pads and buttons and stuff mapped to the different numbers. Just like if you were trying to log in with a PIN on an Xbox, it works really well. I like the experience. It's definitely getting a lot better than what Windows PC gaming used to be. So I like it a lot. It's not absolutely perfect. And there are a couple of games, like if I'm launching games from some of the other storefronts like Epic or Steam, sometimes that doesn't work exactly perfectly. Like it'll still launch, but you might have to use the task switcher more than you would like and stuff. But overall, it's a pretty good experience, and it's making me less nervous about the potential future of Xbox just being a PC thing. So I like that. Also, I haven't really had a good DVR or great live TV solution that I can easily give the family ever since channels decided they didn't want to support the NVIDIA Shield as the channel's DVR server anymore. But I've had a desktop sitting around unplugged, not doing anything for a few months because it ran Windows 10 and it has too old of a processor to put Windows 11 on it. So I decided, all right, forget Windows. Let's throw Linux on this thing and turn it into a server. I tried Ubuntu, and had nothing but issues just trying to install it, which is really weird. Ubuntu is like the go-to. It's supposed to be the easiest one. I've never had issues like this before. So I gave up.
Literally the only Linux I've ever installed.
Yeah, and it is typically really good. So I was like, I don't know, let's try some of the other popular ones out there. I've heard people talk about Mint before. I've never used it. Let's give it a try. It installed very easily. And so I've got a Mint Linux box. I installed Channels DVR and Plex on it, plugged my USB hard drive into that so they could be pulling from there. And I decided to try and do this through Docker. I like Docker. I think Docker is a cool thing as a software developer. And so this allowed me to like dust off some of my Docker skills that I don't use as often as I used to. And it's been mostly good, but like a lot of this is like getting me back up to speed. I haven't really used Linux in a while. I haven't used Docker super frequently. So I've got some kinks in the system that I need to iron out, but overall it's working, and I expect it, once I get the last of these little kinks ironed out, to be pretty rock solid.
Yeah, I've been messing with Docker myself, but for smart home reasons. And yeah, I'm also challenged by making it work all properly.
Yeah.
Although, fun line that you may or may not remember from the DevOps handbook, I love this observation that in the past, we used to think of servers that didn't work anymore, like sick people, and treat them as patients and nurse them back to health. And now when you have a server that doesn't work anymore, you treat it, and I'm sorry, like a horse, and you take it out to pasture and shoot it.
Right. Yes.
Because you just spin up another container.
Right.
Kind of amazing.
Yeah. Another way that I've heard this phrased is, and this works for services and servers equally. We used to treat them like pets. Now we treat them like cattle. Yeah, it's great. So I will keep you all updated on that. Once I've got it running fairly solidly, I'll talk a little bit more about how I did it. In terms of playing games, I played a few things just for a few minutes at a time, testing out some things with the Legion Go and the Xbox full screen experience, but not even enough to really discuss. The only real extended gaming that I did over the last week was playing some Helldivers with some friends. I did get to watch some movies. I'm going to put these in a little bit different order, Richard. I watched 2 spy movies. I watched Atomic Blonde, just like 2017-ish, with Charlize Theron, I think is how you pronounce her name. Very action-oriented, very a fair amount of violence. It's an action espionage movie, but it was good. I liked it. I'd probably give it a 7.5 out of 10. And then I also watched one called Black Bag that I'd never heard of before. I was just scrolling around Amazon Prime Video, and I found this. This is a movie that was in theaters this year, though, and has Kate Blanchett, I think her name is. She was the only. There was another actor in there that is famous that I can't think of his name. This is another espionage movie, completely different. This is not a movie that is all about action and violence and all of that stuff. The vast majority of the story is basically just through dialogue. This feels like a very modern take on how we do storytelling nowadays, where and cinematography. Everything is super dark. Everything is super, super dark. Okay, they host a couple of dinner parties. I expect the lights to be dimmed down low during a dinner party. You know when I don't expect the lights to be dimmed down low? When you're cooking, when you're chopping up vegetables. I want light when I'm doing that. Why are we doing that practically by candlelight? Because it looks cool in a movie. Because
the director loves the look.
Right. But this was a good, just a lot of you got to think through this story sort of movie. Really, really good chemistry between some of the actors. I really enjoyed Black Bag. It's at least an 8, maybe an 8.5 out of 10.
Wow.
Really like that one a lot. But the other one I really want to talk about is a Netflix exclusive where they did the thing that Richard just talked about. It is a movie called A House of Dynamite. They did release this in theaters, and then 2 weeks later it was on Netflix. Have you seen this movie, Richard?
No, literally, I've never heard of any of these movies. So, no,
Wow.
I
I
have
thought you
not.
had probably heard of Atomic Blonde, but
Nope.
A House of Dynamite you should watch as long as you can deal with the fact that it's super depressing. So this movie is about what happens if someone launches a nuclear missile at us.
Oh, wow.
So like the movie starts and within a few minutes of the movie starting, they detect a nuclear ICBM. And then it's just, here's what happens. And
Wow.
I don't want to say much more than that.
Yep.
Because it again, exceptionally well done in the way that they portray all of this. The acting is phenomenal. Like if you are the type of person that can allow yourself to really fully invest yourself into what the characters are going through, your heart will be pounding, your eyes will be watering. Like it is exceptionally well done. I'm terrible with remembering actors and actresses' names. It's got Idris Elba. That one I remember.
Oh, wow.
It's
Okay.
got the woman who plays the lead in Silo.
Same.
Something
Yep.
Ferguson.
I don't know her
think.
name, but
yeah. It's so well done.
Wow.
It's also probably pretty reasonably accurate based on the fact that I'm also reading, I mentioned this last week, a book called Nuclear War, which I don't know if you describe these as like fiction or nonfiction, but it's a book that is essentially doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Where in the book, they also spend some time telling you about like what nuclear weapons actually do and how they were developed and all of that sort of stuff. But then also like after it gives you a bunch of background into all of that stuff, walks you through the scenario of a weapon was just shot at us. Now, second by second and minute by minute, this is how the US government is likely to respond. And her book, the author of that book wrote it after talking to lots of people like in the government, like Leon Panetta, people like that who know.
Right.
And so I trust that book is fairly accurate in what would probably happen. And watching this movie, A House of Dynamite, it's almost like they took the book and made it into a movie. They didn't do that though, because they both came out this year, so that wouldn't have been possible.
Yeah.
So they're both really good. I really recommend both of these, as long as you can deal with the fact that this shouldn't be a spoiler to anybody. There are no winners in nuclear war. It's real bad, real bad. So,
right.
But man, so good.
Wow. So this makes me think of a movie when I was a kid, and this, I don't know if you will remember this. I say kid, I was probably a teenager. That one could argue was actually a propaganda piece called The Day After. And it was a big, huge TV movie event. And it was essentially designed to scare the crap out of everyone on what the aftermath of nuclear war could be like. In 1983, we're early into the Reagan period, I believe.
Yeah.
So we're before the end of the Cold War.
Oh, yeah.
And all of that was still top of mind. I mean, I remember going to school being afraid of stuff like this, right? So interesting to think of like being able to portray that in maybe a less contentious time where you're not necessarily triggering people so much as telling a compelling story that should make people think.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's depressing, but really good. If you are looking for something that is not any of that and is just a good time, we're still watching High Potential. That's a fun show. We're now into season 2.
Remind me again what that is.
It is about a woman who, like, the medical definition or something like that is a high potential individual or something. Like, she has an IQ of 160 or something like that. Super, super smart, super, super observant. not great on some of the social skills and things like that, rule following, things like that. And the first episode is her. She's like a janitor at the police department, and she wanders into one of the rooms, sees a bunch of stuff about a case, basically figures out the case for them, and they're like, wow, you're really smart at this. You should help us out. As completely unrealistic as that could possibly be. And that's what the show is. She's now a consultant with the police helping them solve crimes. So it's a police procedural that's got an interesting little twist that is mostly fun.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, of course, football. So,
of course, because it's fall.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is what's been going on in my entertainment center. A lot more than usual.
Yeah, a lot more. All right. Well, before we sign off, we have a couple of announcements. I have a couple of announcements. So I've been doing some stuff on the side, and I was recently on, not so recently, but finally out, the Technical Difficulties podcast. And this is a podcast hosted by 3 smart home influencers who are primarily YouTubers. They also do a podcast. So the YouTube version of this is out. Interestingly enough, the podcast version of it is not. I am still following up with them to try to find out what that's about. So we'll have a link to the YouTube thing. And I basically kind of cover my foray into smart home and podcasting and stuff like that. It's basically an interview people in the industry kind of thing. So that was a lot of fun to do, and they're a lot of fun. And basically of all of them do such cool YouTube stuff. If you're into smart home, I hope that what will happen if you go watch this is you're interested enough in their personalities that you'll also go check out their respective channels, because they're all great. I am also next week going to be speaking at the Silicon Valley Mac Users Group, and I'm going to be doing a presentation about setting up an Apple smart home. So if you are in the Apple ecosystem and interested in smart home, some tips and tricks that I've learned along the way, and not necessarily an introduction, but hopefully providing people with what you need to know to do things right and learn from my mistakes. And that will be available as a video after that presentation has happened. They'll put it up on their website.
Nice.
And then, Josh, you and I have a trip planned.
Yeah. For the first time together since 2019, we're going to CES.
Yes. Yes, we are.
You've been there a bunch, but I'm finally getting back.
Back together at CES. I am so excited. We're actually working with the CES media team now to secure some recording space. So we know we'll be doing some shows on the floor like we always have in the past. I know I did that last year with the smart home folks, but Josh and I will also get a chance to do that again. So really looking forward to it. And I'm kind of tired of covering this myself, Josh. So I'm glad you're coming.
Yeah, well, you're always so busy with the smart home stuff that I have to come to be able to cover the rest of the stuff that we care about. So
yeah, TVs and audio and gaming and all of that. Because I mean, I'm not going to know one gaming vendor from another. Come on,
but
seriously.
You always go to Razer for me, even if I'm not going to be there. So I appreciate
I already have a note into them that I want to get early access into their suite if we can.
Yeah, we will. Okay, cool. Well, so that is the first full week of January. I believe that starts the 5th, I think. So look for our coverage of CES there soon. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. If you want to get a hold of us, we're in a bunch of places, at Josh Pollard on Twitter and Blue Sky, Richard Gunther on Mastodon, richardgunther.com on Blue Sky. And hey, we did this show live, so you could have checked that out. But if you weren't around for the live show, You can watch it on YouTube too. And even if you're not that big of a YouTuber, we'd appreciate it if you click the link in our show notes. Go and like and subscribe to the channel. That helps us out a lot. But that's going to do it for episode 697. He's Richard Gunther, and I'm Josh Pollard. Thanks for listening to Entertainment 2.0. Adios.
Goodbye.